Thank you for tuning in today to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Essie Curtis-Rockwell, and the joy of the Lord is my strength. Those who struggle with poverty today oftentimes cannot afford an attorney to help them with their civil legal matters. Therefore, those that are in an abusive situation, they need help for their children, they don't have the funds needed to get a lawyer. Maybe you know someone who's in need of a lawyer today. Would you tell them to tune into TBN? We've got good news for you. Jesus loves you, and he hasn't forgotten about you. Would you join me in welcoming today Mr. Stephen Thompson? Thank you for being here today, Stephen.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do in the name of your organization?
Sure. I am the director of a program called the Justice and Mercy Legal Aid Clinic. We are a program of Mile High Ministries, and what we do in our program is we provide civil legal services to people who are struggling with poverty and oppression. And we seek to do that in a way that affirms their dignity and strengthens their capacity to positively direct their own lives.
And that is wonderful. Now, how did Mile High Ministries get involved with legal care?
Mile High Ministries has been doing community development, Christian community development work in the Denver metro area for 25 plus years. A number of years ago, I was working at Mile High Ministries. I was actually a youth pastor here in town before I went to work for Mile High doing community development. During my time at Mile High, I felt the Lord calling me towards pursuing a legal career in order to defend the cause of the poor and needy. And I did that. It took me a number of years going through law school and then practicing law after law school before we officially were able to start the Justice and Mercy Legal Aid Clinic. But when it was time for us to start it, I went to Mile High Ministries, and the director, Jeff Johnson's a good friend of mine who obviously I worked for many years ago, and told him of our dream and our desire and our goal to start a full-service, faith-based Christian legal aid clinic. And Jeff was supportive of us doing that under the auspices of Mile High Ministries.
Thank you so much for that. Now, what type of assistance are you providing for low-income families? Maybe there's somebody watching right now and they really need a lawyer, and they're saying, well, what can you do? What do you offer?
Well, we provide primarily civil legal representation. It's distinguished, obviously, from criminal law. The reason that we don't do criminal law at our program is because if you are an individual who is charged with a crime and you could have to pay a serious fine or do any jail time, the state will provide you an attorney. So the public defender's office, that's what the purpose of the public defender's office is. That's not the case in a civil situation. If you are a person who doesn't have means, who is indigent, and you have a civil legal matter, the state will not pay for you to have an attorney. And so we address issues that are in that realm. A lot of those are family law issues. We do a lot of protection order cases. We do a lot of custody and child support cases. We do some bankruptcy kind of things. So there are a variety of things in the civil legal needs that people have, and that's where our work comes in.
Magnificent. Now, how many legal aid lawyers are there in Colorado?
Can't give you the number of that, but I can give you some statistic on what the need is. There are approximately 670,000 indigent people in Colorado. Of those 670,000, 75% of them approximately have some kind of legal need in a given year. And of those, paid legal aid lawyers, not people who do volunteer work, and there are some good volunteer things that happen, but people who do this full time, there is one paid legal aid lawyer for approximately every 18,000 eligible indigent people in the state of Colorado who have a civil legal need. So obviously the need is huge.
Now, what happens when a low-income person can't afford an attorney? What happens to that person in most cases?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of folks just get taken advantage of. They're whatever situation they have, they either don't do well, don't get a good result because they don't understand the system and they don't have an attorney, or often, primarily the primary group of people that we work with are victims of domestic violence, and often they just don't go forward at all. They're afraid to push their claim. They're afraid to leave a relationship because they don't know what will happen. They're often threatened. A lot of times the person who they're in an abusive relationship with is the person who's providing for them, the person who's giving them a home. And they are afraid that if they do anything, they speak up, if they try and speak up for themselves, one, they won't have any success in the court system. Two, they're just afraid to do it. And so often they just let it go and don't do anything about it.
Well, we want our viewers to know that God hasn't given us the spirit of fear, but power and love and a sound mind. Now, would you share with us, Mr. Thompson, a story of someone who did come to your organization and what was the outcome?
Sure. I can think of a young woman who had young children. She was in a relationship. She had actually been brought here from Cambodia by a U.S. citizen, and they got married, started a family. She didn't really understand the English language particularly well, and when she came here, just a month or two after she came here to marry this gentleman, he asked her to sign a prenuptial agreement. And this prenuptial agreement basically gave her no rights if they were to get divorced. When she came to us, she was fearful that she was not going to get anything if she left him, but it was an abusive relationship. She was physically abused, she was financially abused, she was emotionally abused, and she didn't see that it was good for her children and it was not good for her, and she wanted to leave the situation, but she was afraid that if she went through the court system, she would be left with nothing and wouldn't be able to take care of her kids. She was even afraid of the possibility that she would have to leave the country. So what we told her is, I got to look at this prenuptial agreement. I don't know whether it's valid or not. As it turned out, as I read over it, I thought this was not entered into fairly. She didn't understand what she was signing off. She didn't understand that she had rights not to sign that, and she didn't understand what the effect of signing it would be. At this time in her life, she understood it a little bit better now, but when she signed it, she had no idea what
So
she was
by
signing.
having you giving the legal advice, it's transformational. It sounds like to me. So by having legal advice, it's life-changing for a person. So can you tell us what the number one thing that people are coming to you for assistance for right now?
Well, for us, it's people who are in abusive situations. That's the majority of our work. We do a number of other things as well, but I would say to be safe and to have their children safe is the number one reason that people come to us at this time.
And Mr. Thompson, what does the Bible say about legal aid?
I think the Bible says a lot about legal aid. It starts way back in Exodus 2:20. I think it says, "Do not deny justice to poor people in their lawsuits." Starts there, and I think throughout the Bible there are clear indications that God is concerned about people who are on the margins and people who are struggling with poverty and oppression. Psalm 84 says, "Speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. Speak up and judge rightly." The name of our clinic is after Micah 6:8. Many people are familiar with that. He has shown you, O man, what is good and what the Lord requires of you, to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. That's just a few of them. Isaiah 61:2, "I, the Lord, love justice." And so the Bible God calls people to defend the cause of the poor and needy.
Yes, he does. Now, how can the community get involved? I know we have viewers that want to get involved. What can they do to help?
Well, I think with the particular kind of work that we do, they can be aware that there are often situations right around you where people are in abusive relationships. And a lot of times they're afraid to speak up about that. So I'd say folks can really be aware. Look for situations where people seem to be fearful, where people seem to be upset about their lives and you can't see why it is. And in those situations, reach out to them. Say, is everything okay at home? See, is there anything that I can do to help you out? It is, statistics do show that having legal representation is one of the major factors in a person being able to leave an abusive relationship. And if you can encourage somebody that you know is in an abusive relationship not to just keep on taking it, but to take steps to get help. Our organization can help with that. Colorado Legal Services is a big organization in the state of Colorado that also does the kind of work that we do. Direct people to resources. Don't let them live in oppression.
So Joshua Station is a way of escape for you. So you have the resources. You don't have to stay in that situation. There's help for you. Can you give us your website and information so that someone can contact you who's in need?
Sure. Our website is www.jamlac.org. So you can find information about us there, and our phone number is 303-839-1008.
So we don't want you to be afraid. If you need an attorney, you need legal advice, there is help for you. You need to call someone. Tell them to tune into TBN right now. Now, when I was on your website, I read something about Sarah's story. Can you tell us the final outcome of Sarah's story?
You're going to have to remind me of which one that is. I have so many stories.
Sarah's story, it started out talking about, I think it was about a domestic violent situation that she was in. And she came to you and you were resourceful. So did Sarah's story end on a positive note? Are there real solutions when you go to Joshua Station?
Absolutely, absolutely. So in Sarah's story, she was again afraid to take any action. Afraid for her children, afraid for her life. Really, she was afraid for her life, but that if she did anything, she would be cut off. We represented her and helped her in her dissolution of marriage so that she could get out of that violence situation. And her abuser, as many of them do, was telling her, you're not going to get any money from me. I'm going to take your children away from you. And often that's a threat that is made. That didn't happen. She was able to maintain parental responsibilities for her children. She was able to get out of the relationship and to get some support so that she could start her own life and be independent of someone who had controlled and abused her.
So we want you to get help. Give your website information again.
www.jamlac, that's JAMLAC.org.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thompson, for being with us today on Joy in Our Town. Viewers, the joy of the Lord is my strength, and I'm praying for you. Let it be your strength today as well. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Essie Curtis-Rockwell.